The protest in the UK has become political, with Indian-origin MPs now caught in the racism debate. Let's first tell you what's been happening in the UK over the past couple of days. The country was rocked by a spate of demonstrations over the weekend. Many turned violent. The statue of a slave trader was torn down at Bristol. In London, Winston Churchill's memorial was defaced. Demonstrators said the wartime Prime Minister was a racist. What Britons are protesting today is not just racism. They're also speaking out against the country's colonial past. And this is not good news for the Boris Johnson government. So how is it handling the situation? By striking a balancing act. First, several British ministers, especially people of colour and Indian-origin MPs, claimed that their country is not racist. And now the UK's Interior Minister, Priti Patel, is leading the campaign of balance. She addressed the House of Commons today and she had a message for the protesters. Those responsible for the violence will be held accountable, she said.
Well, I think, first of all, when it came to what happened yesterday in London on Whitehall with the protesters, I'm absolutely sickened and appalled by the level of violence that was on display. Police officers were abused and police officers were injured, and we have a police officer that is seriously injured and in hospital right now, and that is absolutely unacceptable.
She's right. Violence is absolutely unacceptable. What about racism? What about selective policing? What about Imperial Britain's slave trade? Are any of these acceptable? Well, they're not only unacceptable, but also indefensible. The Boris Johnson government knows this. So here's what Priti Patel was tasked with doing. Send a message to the protesters, but also play extremely safe. The Interior Minister said that she sympathized with the protesters. Racism has no place in our society, she said. She also shared her own experience with racism. She said that she was, quote-unquote, regularly called a Paki in the playground. That's short for Pakistani. She was racially abused on the streets and told to drop her surname if she wanted to advance in her career. The minister also made a reference to a cartoon where she was depicted as a fat cow with a ring through its nose. Priti Patel said the caricature was not only racist but also offensive at both religious and cultural levels. So here's my question. How does someone so in tune with racism not understand what drove these protesters to deface Churchill's statue? Priti Patel extended her support for a law that will help in prosecuting those who damage war memorials. What is stopping her from acknowledging that Churchill may have been a war hero for some, but to the majority of the world, he was a racist? A balancing act will not help Britain here. Here's what will. Address the demands of the demonstrators. Put an end to racism in the UK. Acknowledge past mistakes. Apologize for igniting racism and race-based prejudice. Apologize for the 1943 Bengal famine, for Jallianwala Bagh, for trading Africans. Strong governments do not play balancing acts on sensitive issues like these. The Boris Johnson government is already being blamed for its delayed response to the Wuhan virus pandemic. Now is an opportunity for it to respond appropriately.